Yeah, great. Fantastic. Let's come in on Frankie when he's not talking or anything like that. Welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch, to the extent today could be considered an actual episode of Liquid Lunch. But we're going to go live now to the impeachment hearings where the charade continues. Let's take a listen.
Drawing a foreign government into our elections is an especially serious abuse of power because it undermines democracy itself. Our Constitution begins with the words, "We the people," for a reason. Our government, in James Madison's words, derives all its powers directly or indirectly from the great body of the people. And the way it derives these powers is through elections. Elections matter, both to the legitimacy of our government and to all of our individual freedoms, because as the Supreme Court declared more than a century ago, voting is preservative of all rights.
Professor Carlin is right. Elections matter. They make our government legitimate, and they protect our freedom. A president who abuses his power in order to kneecap political opponents and spread Russian conspiracy theories, a president who uses his office to ask for, or even worse, to compel foreign nations to meddle in our elections, is a president who attacks the very foundation of our liberty. That is a grave abuse of power. It is an unprecedented betrayal of the national interest. It is a shocking corruption of the election process. And it is without doubt a crime against the Constitution, warranting, demanding removal from office. The framers expected that free elections would be the usual means of protecting our freedoms. But they knew that a president who sought foreign assistance in his campaign must be removed from office before he could steal the next election. In a last-ditch legal defense of their client, the president's lawyers argue that impeachment and removal are subject to statutory crimes or to offenses against established law, that the president cannot be impeached because he has not committed a crime. This view is completely wrong. It has no support in constitutional text and structure, original meaning, congressional precedents, common sense, or the consensus of credible experts. In other words, it conflicts with every relevant consideration. Professor Gerhardt succinctly captured the consensus view in his testimony.
Professor Gerhardt, does a high crime and misdemeanor require an actual statutory crime?
No, it plainly does not. Everything we know about the history of impeachment reinforces the conclusion that impeachable offenses do not have to be crimes, and again, not all crimes are impeachable offenses. We look at, again, at the context and gravity of the misconduct.
This position was echoed by the Republicans' expert witness, Professor Turley, in his written testimony. There he stated that it, quote, "It is possible to establish a case for impeachment based on a non-criminal allegation of abuse of power." He also stated, "It is clear that high crimes and misdemeanors can encompass non-criminal conduct." More recently, Professor Turley, again the Republican witness at our hearing, wrote an opinion piece in the Washington Post entitled, "Where the Trump Defense Goes Too Far." In this piece, he stated that the president's argument is as politically unwise as it is constitutionally short-sighted. He added, if successful, it would also come at a considerable cost for the Constitution. Although I disagree with Professor Turley on many, many issues, here he is clearly right. And I might say the same thing of then-House Manager Lindsey Graham, who in President Clinton's trial flatly rejected the notion that impeachable offenses are limited to violations of established law. Here is what he said.
What's a high crime? How about if an important person hurts somebody of low means? It's not very scholarly, but I think it's the truth. I think that's what they meant by high crimes. Doesn't even have to be a crime. It's just when you start using your office and you're acting in a way that hurts people, you've committed a high crime.
There are many reasons why high crimes and misdemeanors are not and cannot be limited to violations of the criminal code. We address them at length in the briefs we have filed and the report of the House Judiciary Committee respecting these articles of impeachment. But I would like to highlight a few especially important considerations. I'll tick through them quickly. First, there is the matter of the historical record. The framers could not have meant to limit impeachment to statutory crimes. Presidents are to be impeached and removed from office for treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. But bribery was not made a statutory crime until 1837. Second, the President's position is contradicted by the Constitution's text. The framers repeatedly referred to crimes, offenses, and punishment elsewhere in the Constitution. But here they refer to high crimes. That matters. It matters because the phrase high crimes refers to offenses against the state rather than to workaday crimes. And it matters because the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors had a rich history in England where it had been applied in many, many cases that did not involve crimes under British law. When the framers added high crimes here, but nowhere else in the Constitution, they made a deliberate choice. Any doubt on that score is dispelled by the framers' own statements. In Federalist Number 65, Alexander Hamilton explained that impeachable offenses are defined fundamentally by the abuse or violation of some public trust. A few years later, James Wilson, a Constitutional Convention delegate, agreed with Hamilton. Wilson stated, "Impeachments and offenses and offenders impeachable come not within the sphere of ordinary jurisprudence. They are founded on different principles, are governed by different maxims, and are directed to different objects." George Mason expressed concern that the President might abuse the pardon power to, quote, "screen from punishment those whom he had secretly instigated to commit a crime, and thereby prevent a discovery of his own guilt." Sound familiar?
What's happening down in Washington in the Senate? Gerald Nadler is still droning on and on. You can get everything you want to know about the impeachment by staying tuned right here after Liquid Lunch when Allison Maloney and Bob Sellers bring you National Report, one of the newest shows on Newsmax TV. And don't forget, at 7 p.m. every night, you can get another news show as Greg Kelly joins the Newsmax lineup. The fastest growing cable network in America now has Greg Kelly Reports at 7 p.m. Eastern. Quick break. We'll wrap up Liquid Lunch right after this.